everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Polywine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for everyone joining us again today. This is part 2 of our two-parter. We started off earlier today. We talked about politics. We went into a lot of the stuff that's going on at the Paris Olympics and pulling to the close of the Olympics. We talked a little bit about entertainment, but we just had too much to talk about, not enough time, so we wanted to bring it back for a two-parter. So let's get into it. Let's get into the entertainment part and some pop culture, and let's get into the Bravo universe. A lot has happened this week. So let's start a little bit low key and we'll kind of work our way up to the heavy hitting stuff because it's, last week there was a little bit more quiet, but this week, Bravo brought it. Let's just say that. So let's go back to Below Deck Med. Bree and Ellie, the fight continues. They're over Joe. They're pissed about Joe. You want to know why? Because this week they overheard Joe singing a kind of a tasteless song about both girls. Is it Ellie? Will it going to be Ellie? Is it going to be Bree? I've had both of them, but who can I decide? And Ellie overheard it, and she was quite disgusted by it. And somebody else overheard it, and it got back to Bree, and Bree's now pissed. And she's like, I'm done. Why am I chasing this guy? He doesn't care about me, and he's in it for the game, and it's obviously for his own ego. So I'm out. I'm not going to chase this guy anymore. And Ellie was like, yeah, I'm done. Whatever little interest or spark I may have had, shut off. It's done. Over it. Not going to happen. So Joe just realized that his chances are shot. It's not going to happen. So stupid guy, you had 2, you ruined it, now you got none. However, we do see highlights for next week. They are going to bring in another Stu, and of course, he's probably going to go for her. So he is good looking. He's ripped. We found out the other week that he's got a 30-inch waist. That's tiny. So broad shoulders, thin waist. He's nicely shaped, great thick eyebrows, pretty blue eyes. I'm sure the other girl's going to go for him right away because Nathan is now with Gail because she broke up with her boyfriend. That's over. That's out of the way. Jono, I actually really, really, really come to like Jono. I like him. I like how he's always dancing around in the kitchen. That's a little risque, but hey, do it. I don't know if I want to dance around with pots and pans that are hot, but you do you. But he does it. He does it well. And he's come a long way. However, we do see little previews for next week, and it looks like there is a big mess up. So Jono's days may be numbered. And I think there's been a chef waiting kind of on the back burner somewhere anyway, because there have been a little hiccups before in the past. So Jono, your days are numbered, but you've come a long way. I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised during that first episode when you refused to wake up when Ellie, asked you to get up in the middle of the night for that first crew because it was just a disaster anyway. I didn't really like that. I thought that was a little bit off-putting, but you've come a long way on in my view. So I like it. And if you get fired, I think I might miss you. I like your energy. I love that conversation that you had with Gail the other week about her boyfriend. Is it really what you want? Are you putting in the time? Because you know that she was just bullshitting you, right? Yes, I put so much work in. Come to find out, maybe you weren't putting in as much work as you thought because you were interested. And of course, you were working a lot, and you guys are on different schedules and different times, whatever. But, I thought that was a good, true friend conversation. He was kind of really being truthful to you. He was asking you for you to be accountable or at least take notice of your actions of what you were putting into your relationship. And I think those moments you're like, you know what, maybe this isn't right. And I think that conversation kind of helped, propel you a little bit more in that direction to kind of end it because it really wasn't going anywhere. And of course, he tried to break up with you via text. And when you were just like, that's fine. You could have gone back with it. You're like, nope, that's it. We're done. That's fine. You don't want to do it. I don't want to do it either. So you know what? In the long run, much better for you, Gail. You got Nathan. It seems like that could be fun. Although now that you guys are hanging out, I have to say you're very boring. Cute, adorable couple. Boring. So therefore, the drama ends with Bree and Ellie. They hate each other. And there does seem like there might be a little bit of sabotage going on in the laundry room. I didn't want to admit it at first. I think with everyone else, everybody's like, Bree, I don't know. Maybe not the sharpest tool in the kitchen, but, Ellie is in there a lot. But then I don't know if you start to see there's a little bit more clips coming along where Ellie actually is in the laundry room. And then I don't know if you had any time to watch the after show on Peacock that comes on. I didn't think I'd actually end up watching it, but I did by accident. And I got a lot of information out of it, and I bring it here to you. That Ellie's actually in the laundry room a lot more than we realize. It's been edited out, for time and, for whatever reasons, but it's been edited out, but she's actually in the laundry room a lot more. And she's made a lot of errors. And in this episode, you see Aisha really questioning Ellie's capabilities. She was a little too overconfident and a little too oversure of herself. Ellie was in the beginning, as second stew, but she's not really great about time management. She's not really skilled at making drinks. That's kind of one of your major jobs. She's good. Seems to be good at, table decor, which is good, but there's a lot of other stuff that comes along with it. So, but time management is a big issue. She's very scattered, it seems, although she seems to think that she's got it all together. But she's an unusual character, I find Ellie. I find Ellie and Bree to be very unusual. Bree just seems like she's just really late to the game catching on with everything, right? Oh, okay. A little delayed reaction, maybe. I don't know. Ellie is just so kind of high strung and overly paranoid that she just gives off odd vibes to me sometimes. And some of the things that she says, I don't know. But, Captain Stanley basically gave them an ultimatum. Like, if you can't work together, I have to get rid of both of you. Because poor Aisha's working overtime. If she's coming to me that she can't fix the problem. And I think so far she's handled it as well as she could. She's been as diplomatic as she can. She's tried to listen to both sides. And I think she's honestly, like I said, in the after show, she was sitting with, oh my God, Kate from Below Deck, the original Below Deck. God, I can't believe I was calling it. Kate's my favorite. I can't believe I was drawing a blank on that. She was sitting with Kate, and Kate's like, I think you handled it really well. Because Ellie A tried to turn it on you, going, you know what, I think you let Bree get away with a lot of stuff. And Bree is very emotional. So sometimes you just feel bad for her, even though you don't really know the story, but you just want to naturally kind of comfort her because she's so fragile. And you could see she was put in a different position, but I actually think she handled it as diplomatically best that she could. But it was so toxic, and she really doesn't know 100% the truth anyway. And I think it's good that Aisha went to Joe and was like, leave my stews alone. Like, you are causing chaos in the, basically on the boat. On the entire boat is feeling the rift that you have caused. So stop your shit. So I'm glad she called him out on that. And he did. But he still calls it anyway, singing that stupid, disrespectful song. So what a jerk. But, they're still fighting. Let's see if they stay. There's supposed to be another stew coming on. That's what we see previews for next week. So that should be, that'll change the dynamic around a little bit. And it looks like she immediately starts to kind of go towards Joe. So we'll see if they actually have feelings still for Joe. That's Brie and Ellie, since they've already had a little something there, even though they say they did not anymore. We shall see. Now, everybody needs to feel for Aisha, because I feel stressed for this girl. She looks tired. Jono, I hope it goes okay for you. I really do. I really do. I come to like you. I hope you stay, but it seems like you have a big mess up next week. So, I don't know. Like, you see Captain Sandy say, I have to fire, because there's a raw fish situation. This lady, they show a preview for next week's charter. And this lady, there's a plate of food set in front of this woman. And the woman said, oh my God, is this raw fish? Please tell me this isn't raw fish. Something to the effect, because that can kill me. I'm highly allergic to raw fish. And they go back and like, she cannot have raw fish. It can kill her. And you see Sandy going like, this is a major, major mistake. And I have to fire him for it. You're like, no, he's come a long way. You know, I don't know. I don't know. He hasn't been the best chef. I think Rachel probably takes the cake as my favorite chef. She's a little cuckoo, but God, she's amazing. God, and you heard the tennis player talk about that at the beginning. Rachel's good, but you know, whatever. So that's Below Deck Med. Now we have to, must get into the Last Supper of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. It happened. Everybody gathered at Rails, the notorious Rails. Okay, we can talk about the beginning of the episode, right? So most of the beginning of the episode is where Fessler, Margaret, and Dolores gather at Dolores' house. They're having some, desserty kind of food. It looks delicious. Some cronuts, I don't know, what is that? It almost looks like a creme brulee pudding. Yummy. I don't know really what that was. They were serving up on the side, but it looked delicious. And they're hanging out and they're talking about what's going on, what's going to happen at the dinner, and are they prepared for about Teresa, and what about Jackie, right? And she's like, I think there's going to be some bombs dropped about Jackie. She's, I'm paraphrasing here. And they were talking about, well, don't you remember when everybody was getting together before the reunion last year or something like that? And it was essentially, she was saying it was going to be a takedown on Louis. And Margaret turned to Dolores, and Margaret were talking. She was like, well, you were invited. And Dolores was like, I wasn't invited to that shit. And Dolores went ape shit. Like, super crazy. Called her, see you next Tuesday. Went off about it. And even Margaret's like, what are you freaking out about? It's not that big of a deal. Like, you and I, it's not that big of a deal. Why are you freaking out? Why are you losing your mind at me? I don't understand. Like, this isn't a big deal. And she was like, because it is a big deal, because you're basically saying I'm a liar and I'm telling you I didn't know about it. And she's like, look, it wasn't big mention. I didn't mention it constantly to you. It was just kind of like an off kind of comment that I said in, just kind of in passing in speech, because I didn't think you'd want to come. You wouldn't be into it. And she was, like, I'm really sorry if you misinterpreted that, Dolores. I didn't mean for you to take it that way. That's not what I meant. I don't understand why you freaked out on me. And so eventually it's the dust settled, and Dolores is like, I'm really sorry. I lost my mind. I'm tired. I've had a long day. I freaking love Dolores so much. She can go off the handle, call her that, and be like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm just tired. Sorry about that. We're friends, right? And Margaret's like, yeah. And she just had this look on her face like, what just happened? So that was how it started off. But then, the rest of the episode, you've got a little story here. You've got, Danielle and her family carving pumpkins out. And then you got stuff going on at the Fuda's house and just chit chat, little stuff. But then as we all gather to get ready to the Last Supper, as Dolores has called it, we go back to the notorious Rails restaurant, where nothing good ever happens there on this show. Nothing. And to the owners of the restaurant, if you ever allow any housewife back there again to film, maybe use plastic cutlery, dishware, serving trays, you name it, all plastic. Just a suggestion, because glass, high probability that it will be broken. Tables will be flipped, whatever. So many good things have happened there. Like so many bad things for the restaurant, but just great things for this show and franchise. I got to tell you, memorable moments. So we're getting to Rails. And we're getting there and everybody's gathering and they're ordering their drinks and they're chit-chatting and having a good time. And even Fessler says, like, this is going really well. This, like, are we missing anybody? And then right then, Teresa walks in, right? Teresa walks in, she's like, and immediately says, I don't want to sit across from her, which would be Margaret. Yeah. And on a side note, Margaret looked fantastic during this dinner. She's even walked in and said, Hungarian assassin. She looked slick, sleek, and amazing. All the women looked really well, I thought, pretty much. Some looked better than others, but I thought Margaret, I think she was probably my favorite. She looked great. Jen Aydin looked really good too. She looked great rocking out her Versace. Melissa Gorga looked great. I thought they all looked good. I thought they all looked decent. The rest of them looked decent. Dolores looked beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But I definitely think Margaret took that one. But anyway, so Teresa walks in and says, I don't want to sit across from her as Margaret. And Margaret's like, grow up. So Jen Aydin gets up and is like, you can switch with me. But then that puts Teresa sitting diagonally across from Melissa, who she also has a major issue with, but they are not talking with each other. So, the moment Teresa walks in, so does the chaos. Jen Fessler, you spoke way too soon when you said, this is going surprisingly well. Are we missing anyone? And boom, Teresa. And then, of course, here comes the chaos. So they swap, that it calms down. And then, there were some rules kind of set. We're all going to talk and kind of discuss our grievances with whom we have issues with. And then I'll kind of interject if I think that we've gone too far. But at the end of the day, the goal of this dinner is resolution. So that is in the direction we're trying to head. Okay. So that is what Dolores and Jen Fessler, the co-partner of this party, that's what they were saying. So Jen Aydin and Danielle start. And it immediately goes into the discussion about the charity. And Danielle's like, when you kept saying about this, and that's not fair. You were wrong. And that paints me in a bad light. The drivers, this and that. She was naming out what different kind of things that were happening at her charity event and what her expenditures were for it. And she's like, this particular expense came out of my pocket. This particular expense came out of my pocket. I paid for it. See, you're accusing me that I took the money out of the charity event and paid for these expenditures, but you were incorrect. I paid for them out of my pocket, but there was one thing that did come out of some of the fundraising money. And that was something, I don't think that would have been extremely expensive. But immediately Jen Aydin was like, see, that's where it is if you can't afford it. So they were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then it got into the statements. Danielle was like, you know what? I know you're lonely in your Lauren house, so it's okay. You can sit there and say what you want. And you can be as mean you want, because I know this is essentially your unkind words are coming from a hurt heart, right? Essentially, that's kind of what Danielle was saying to Jen Aydin. And Jen Aydin's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm happy as can be. My home is full of love. And you can just sit there and talk about, what your situation is at home with your husband with the boobs and you with the brawn. And boom, like Danielle, propelled up out of her seat, just like one of those acrobatic swimmers I was telling you about in part 1 earlier today that I was watching the Olympics, vaulted out of her seat And across that table, now, evidently, there was a broken pitcher that happened that she threw. It's what I have read is she lunged in a throwing action, is for what I understood, at Jen, but that was kind of edited out a little bit. I didn't really see that. You did see at the end where the server or whomever, the poor waitress, was sweeping up some broken glass, but that was kind of showed out. You just saw Danielle leap across the table directly towards at Jen Aydin. And you even see Teresa, with her cat-like reflexes, because she's obviously been through that before, start screaming, "You can't do that, don't do that." And security immediately steps in. So this has got to be Bravo security, I would guess, in production, that kind of step in right away and kind of interject themselves in the middle of this battle right away. And probably because of what's happened in the past at Rails, maybe it's part of their security as well. Don't really know, but it could have been both, because there was a fair amount of security for a dinner. Like, I know that there was a lot of tension going on between the housewives, but that was a lot of security, and they were really, really into it. And they all leapt in and pulled Danielle off. And immediately, Teresa was like, "You can't do that. You can't do that." Melissa turns around and was like, "What do you mean you can't do it? You're the queen of it. You white." And she called her like white trash. And then you hear Teresa jump in, just screaming, "Whore, whore." That's right. That's what you hear Teresa screaming all in the background. "Whore, whore." I don't know if you could tell I was trying to play a little clip of Teresa in the background screaming "whore, whore" at Melissa. So then, after that, that's what that was. That scene was just chaos. But I just thought the irony of Teresa saying that was just so funny. And then, of course, calling her brother's wife a whore after they've been married for so long. But, you know, that does seem pretty much on brand with Teresa. So security takes Danielle out, right? And separates her. And Dolores is in the other room, in the dining room, asking Jen, "Are you okay? Is everything all right? Do you want us to have her removed? Do you feel like you are not in a safe situation? Tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling, you know, all that, because I will ask her to leave if you do not feel comfortable." And geez, Jen Aydin, she was like, "I'm fine." Because at first I think they said she should go, right? But then after it settled for a minute, Jen's like, "You know what? I dressed for a party, not for a funeral," or something to that effect. She said, "So I'm here. You can bring her in." She was like, "Because I think she's, you know, digging her own grave. So let me just watch that happen. It's just, you know, it's happening in slow motion. So let me watch it. I've got a front row seat. So sure, bring her in. I want to see her dig her own grave." And meanwhile, they're outside. A couple people are outside with Danielle. And they're like, "You need to calm down. You need to calm down. You need to calm down." And she was like, "I'm just really upset. This is really awful. You can't talk about people's husbands. That should, husbands and kids, that should really be off limits." And then Teresa comes in. What's not as bad as that girl Margaret sitting across her. Look what she does. And thank goodness Danielle, she turns around and kind of snaps back at Teresa a little bit and says, "Teresa, this isn't about you right now. This isn't about you." And she's like, I know, as narcissistic as she can be. I know, but did you see Margaret? She's like, "This isn't about that right now, and it's not about you." Because poor Margaret in that moment didn't have anything to do with it, right? So that settles, and they pull Danielle into the bathroom to calm her down. She's upset, she's crying, she's emotional, all of that, right? That's pretty big moment just happened on TV. She lost her cool and she's just a mess, and she's really trying to collect herself. And in true Dolores fashion, she's like, "You got to get it together. You got to get it together. You got to get it together, Danielle." And Danielle's like, "I'm trying, Danielle." Just so heartfelt. And Dolores is like, "I know. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job." Dolores, I freaking love you so much, Dolores. I love you. And then they're trying to get everybody together. So eventually they all agreed that Danielle can come back in. Okay. She can come back in and we can start talking. Poor Dolores, though, she's literally trying to stomp out fires in every direction. You got Danielle emotional in the bathroom. You got everything going on in the dinner table. You got Teresa freaking out on the other side. And so, like I said, they're going back to Jen Aydin. Are you okay? And she's like, she can come. It's come. And Melissa's like, she turns around and said, she's like, when we really start talking about husbands and families, like it's really off limits, and that's a whole other level, and that's really should be off limits. It really should. And Jen says, she kind of brought that up, telling me I'm sitting alone, lonely in my house, and that's not fair. And Margaret chimes in and says, she really shouldn't have said that. And you even hear Jen Aydin, who is really agitated with Margaret, goes, "Thank you, Margaret. Thank you." And then Jen Fessler, which I'm just going to tell you, Jen Fessler she's drove me crazy all season long. I really liked her last year, and I just do not know what has happened to her this season, but she sucked at all. But she just gets up and is like, this is too much for me. I can't handle it. So I'm out. I'm leaving. So she's co-hosting a party and just excuses herself in the middle of it because it's too stressful. I mean, I hope you left your credit card. That's all I can think of. And then you have like Fuda and Melissa are all like, don't you think it's kind of weird that she's co-hosting a party and she's leaving? They're like, yeah, whatever. So Fessler's out. Danielle comes back in, right? And they make her sit across the table. So she's, farther or down from Jen. So there's distance. So there's a safe distance. But geez, did you see that the security guy walking next to Jen Aydin walking into the room? My goodness. Like it was no joke. Like they were putting the precautions out on her for sure. So she walks in and immediately they sit down and they're still unsettled. And somebody says, well, why don't we obviously Teresa's very upset. So why don't we let Teresa speak? So Teresa's like, I don't really need to say anything. Why don't you speak? Because you obviously have a lot to say in talking to Margaret. And Margaret's like, no, say what you want. She was like, so she's like, you've had enough to say. You're the one that's going around. You're the one that had this smear campaign about me. She's like, what are you talking about? I didn't have a smear campaign. This is Margaret. I didn't have a smear campaign. She's like, the night before the reunion, you had everybody over. And then Jackie's like, let me make this clear in her little cameo. It was a smear campaign. She wanted to get everybody over there and dig shit up about Louis, about Teresa's husband. Because he had the whole Bo Dietl thing, the private investigator, and was like just kind of harassing her son at work and some other weird stuff that was going on. And then you had the videos out there with his ex, and then the accusations with his ex and all this stuff. So, she was really pissed about Margaret. And Margaret's like, I didn't have a smear campaign. We all wanted to get together and kind of do like a review for the reunion. And yes, that stuff came up, but it wasn't a smear campaign. It was just us talking about it. And yes, we all had our own stuff, but hey, you guys put it out there. And she was like, no, you had the ex over. And she's like, no, I didn't. And they start going through the timeline. I didn't have the ex over. I didn't talk to her before this time, but I did find out last week because I called her and I did find out that Jackie had her over for dinner, and she dropped a bomb that it wasn't her that was talking to the ex, Louis' ex, that was causing all this rift in the media and all this stuff in the lawsuits. It was Jackie. And the entire table, you just see it like jaws drop. They gasp there like, because Margaret has been blamed for it the whole time. And Margaret was denying it, but everybody kind of thought it was Margaret. And Margaret's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Jackie. And everyone's like, what? And Jackie's like, it wasn't me. She was denying it. And geez, I kept saying, couldn't spit it out, denying it. And Melissa turns, she's like, well, if this is true, there's obviously got to be evidence out there to support that accusation, correct? And everyone else is like, yeah. I mean, obviously, right? There's got to be accusations there's got to be evidence to back up those accusations. And Jackie, as soft under her breath, she's like, okay, I met with her, and dropped the bomb. Yes, it was her. The entire time, she's the one that met with her, and she's the one that talked to her, was like digging the stuff up. Yes. And she was letting it go on me, fall on Margaret. And Margaret's like, you let it all fall on me, and you're sitting back there kissing her butt, trying to be friends with her, and you're the one that causes chaos. And she was like, well, you knew about it, and you're the one that talked about it. This is Teresa yelling at Margaret, saying, you're the one that knew about it. You're the one that spread all these rumors. She's like, it wasn't. She's like, and that's why you got subpoenaed. And Margaret turned around, and it's like, you subpoenaed the wrong bitch. And she's like, you're so full of shit. That's why you fucked the plumber. And everybody's like, what? And that was probably my favorite line of the whole episode, was Margaret's like, yeah, I'll fuck the plumber. I'll fuck him all day, every day. In every way. And I just started laughing so hard. And everybody's like, what's so wrong with doing that with a plumber? Like, everybody else is like, where did that come from? And then they started going down other professions. But then it just was, you're a liar. Jackie didn't do it. And everybody was fighting. But everybody was just shocked that that bomb was dropped, that Margaret had been taking the fall the whole time. And Jackie was just sitting there and playing coy and hiding the whole time, that it was her. It was her. And she was like, are you the one that released the video? And Jackie's like, no. But nobody believes her now, because she kept denying it the whole time. And through the previous episode, and you even see Danielle even turned her. She's like, but I've asked you before, Jackie, if you knew anything, because you were friends with Margaret, and you denied it. And Jackie's like, yeah, I denied it. I said no. And then they roll clips back of them asking Jackie, well, did you know anything? Does any of this seem right? And Jackie kept saying nope, and denying it. So she lied through her teeth the entire time. And she was going to deny it this entire episode as well, being put on the spot. The only thing that changed her mind was everybody was like, well, there's obviously got to be evidence out there. And she was like, oh shit, there's at least got to be screenshots or something. Because, and the fact that they showed the clip, the editing showed clip of the screenshot that Margaret sent to Dolores, that Jackie was talking smack about her. So, I mean, for an attorney, Jackie, you should know anything you say or text can and will be used against you. So not so smart there, and you got busted. Again, so you got busted on the screenshot with Dolores. You got busted on this one. You came back this season with a mission to take some people down. And you wanted to get back on so desperately, you befriended the wrong group. And the thing is, you look stupid all the way around, because it was quite clear. And even Teresa said that she was using you to get back at Margaret. She was pissed at Margaret. She wasn't really a fan of you anyway. I mean, this whole thing with you coming back was just sloppy, and you made yourself look so bad. And at the end of the episode, when everyone was leaving, they were all standing there, and then you see Jackie starting to walk on. They're like, oh no, she's starting to take the corner. And you hear Dolores saying, I think Jackie needs a diaper. I think she just shit herself right now. And it kind of does look that way when she's walking out, like she's all tense and tight, and disheveled. Like, she deserved to get busted. I wasn't a fan. I have not been a Jackie fan since she came on, and I haven't even been a Jersey fan for a while, because I just think I really haven't into it. I'm not a fan of Teresa. But, it was an interesting ending. Very interesting ending. Definitely a good bomb that was dropped. Not really surprised. I'm surprised it took this long for it to kind of come out. But next week, there's no reunion. But next week, you're going to see the cast watch The Last Supper together. Or I don't know, like how groups or teams or what are they going to do. But they're going to get together and watch it and kind of review it together and put their inputs in. I don't know. Jersey definitely needs to do some recasting. I hope Teresa is gone. I cannot watch another season of Teresa in her same ways. And can I just make a side note? Teresa, what have you done to your lips? I could not stop staring at your lips the entire dinner. And she kept reapplying some lip gloss. And I don't know if she's getting lips injections or if she's doing that tracing outside the lines that a lot of people do to make their lips look fuller. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. But those lips are so full and so glossy and slimy. She looks like, have you ever seen people that are really shit-faced at a bar? And you see the women in the bathroom like trying to put their makeup on. It's a little bit out of lines, but they think they look great. And that's what Teresa's giving me in those moments. Like she's reapplying and it's all over the place and she thinks she looks great. And I couldn't stop staring at it. Like, cause I'm like, what is that? Is it injections? Is she drawing outside the lines? Is it both? I don't know. It was too much. But I'm over Teresa. She's got to go. I hope they keep Marge. I love the Marge. You got to keep Dolores. Jen Aydin, I'm on the fence about. Sometimes she brings it, but a lot of times she irritates me. And sometimes she can get really below the belt. I kind of like Danielle. I don't know why. I hope they keep her. Yes, she's hot-headed. She's a little overreactive. I like her. I do. Sometimes she's a little hokey. I don't know. I'm on the fence with the Fuda. Gorga, I don't know. I'm on the fence with I like Melissa and Joe a lot. I'm on the fence about them. Don't bring Jackie back. No more Teresa. Who else? No Fessler. I don't want any more Jen Fessler. So overall, okay season I would give New Jersey. Okay. Decent finale. I love the Marge. Keep the Marge. And you look the best during the dinner. Most of you looked well. Marge, you look the best. So that's the wrap with New Jersey. Let's move over to Dubai. Dubai, they're in Bali, right? You have the cleansing ceremony. First of all, you have the dinner. It picks up where we left off, where the whole scandal about the voice note, right? Well, it wasn't about Brooks. It was actually about Talene. And it looks bad. So now Lisa and Ayan are fighting. And this is unfortunate, but Lisa should be pissed because Ayan shouldn't have played it. And I don't know why Ayan is so mad. Yes, she looked really bad and looked foolish in front of everybody. And she looked really, really messy. And even Lisa was like, messy, and I'm upset with you. But how she overreacted was extreme. And she usually overreacts. Like, first of all, these ladies cry too much. And maybe I'm a Caroline Stanbury on this one. And I always keep saying I do like Caroline Stanbury. Yes, she's a little, maybe some people view her as cold. I'm fine with it. I find her directness to be A-okay. But I didn't like how Lisa was crying and calling everyone and then why was she calling Ayan's husband? I don't know what that's all about. That to me was super weird and kind of crossing some boundaries. I don't know if they're familiar like that, how they're all good, and maybe she can talk to him when Ayan gets in her fits. I have no idea. I felt that was really weird because at first when she's like, Chris, I was like, who is she talking to? And then you see later when he was talking to Ayan and she was getting her head shaved in the next scene, he was like, yeah, I was talking to Lisa last night. I was like, wait a minute. She was talking to Ayan's husband, Lisa? Like, that's weird. And then Rich calls her husband and she bumps him off the phone to talk to her husband. And then she was crying. And then the next morning at breakfast, she was crying again. I don't know. That was emotional. She should have been pissed. I think Lisa had every right to be pissed. I don't think in this, I don't, again, why do people use things that can be used against them evidentially? Like text messages, voice notes, voicemails. I don't know. Whatever. Why do you use that? It can come back to you. things on Instagram, social media posts, you name it. It always comes back as an argument. And God forbid, don't do chain text. Do not do that. That never works out well. So that's where it picks up. They're still fighting. And eventually they move on. They're still pissed, but they're going to move forward. Right? Good. There we go. Talene feels weird because everybody's pissed at her and Stanberry's got to take up her. Stanberry's like, I got to own that I shouldn't have mentioned that. And God knows, if I would have realized that it was about Talene, I would have never brought that up, because not only are now Lisa and Ayan fighting, now, they brought out this whole situation that Sarah doesn't like Talene and Talene's upset. Now she knows that. And I'm kind of fine with Talene so far. She's brought a little bit of entertainment to the cast. But when this whole fight was happening, they fan over to this cameo of Carolyn Brooks, and she was like, the House of Cards is starting to fall. So her plan's working out well. Like, she's been waiting for this moment, and it's happening. So then next scene they cut, they're doing their whole spiritual waterfall cleansing, how they're screaming into the waterfall and hoping that it cleanses the emotions. So there's that. And then they finish that up, and then they get ready to go to another dinner. And before they get ready, Lisa, who's in charge of the food situation, is like, you know what? Just to kind of add this extra element of elegance, I called ahead this local designer and asked her to send over some fashions of her so we can wear going out to dinner and, experience some of the culture, some of the fashion, and really kind of immerse ourselves in the entire experience and really get into it. So they were like, okay. And as soon as the girls start trying on clothes, some of them, like half of them were really into it. Of course, everything looks good on Ayan. Lisa looked, oh my God, spectacular. She looked so beautiful. And who was the other one? There was another one and Saba. Saba looked really good. And then you had Carolyn Stanberry and Carolyn Brooks, and then Talene. They were in another room trying to get ready, and they were just dissing the clothes. I hope the designer doesn't see this. That's so embarrassing and humiliating. Because Stanberry was saying, these designs don't look like they're off the runway. I'm paraphrasing. But it looks like they took them off of some high school prom girl that's missing an outfit for a party. And these are not high fashion. And I'm not wearing it. Nothing compliments me. Nothing looks good. I didn't approve to wear this, and I'm not wearing this on television. And they made the one comment. I couldn't stop. I kind of started to giggle because they looked at Talene. She's like, you look like a curtain. And all I could think of is Gone with a Wind. Oh my God. And as soon as she said, I'm like, oh, she kind of does. But even Talene wore it well. So I don't know. If you saw what poor Lisa had to wear in Salt Lake City at that dinner, barely wearing anything while she let somebody else pick out her clothes for her, which was barely anything at all. I think these women could have sucked it up for a dinner and worn these outfits. And I really hope that wasn't the designer helping them get into the clothes, because Carolyn Brooks is like, I don't wear mustard yellow. That's not my color. And, not my color, but I could have worn it as well. And I'm sure it probably would have looked good on you, Carolyn, because you're actually a very, very pretty girl. So yeah, that's kind of where it ended, where half of the girls were leaving, doing this beautiful walk and looking pretty in the clothes. And then the other three women were hanging back in the room, refusing to get dressed in those clothing and wear it because they didn't like the designs. So that was unfortunate. They don't look good. So next week it should, be interesting to see where they go from there and who starts crying, who's offended, because I'm sure there will be tears. And I just feel bad for the designer, because she's putting herself out there, and these three women are just shredding her designs, her skill, and everything. And I think it's awful, and it's embarrassing, and they should be embarrassed. So that was Dubai. Now, moving over to OC. Can I just say, first and foremost, how happy I am to have just even if it's a little taste of the OG of the OC. Vicki Gunvalson is back, and she brought it. She brought it this week, Vicki, and I love you. And I hope you are back for some more. I really do. But everything about this episode was messy. It was very messy. Can I just say, Jen, I'm so glad this episode, everybody kind of gave you a little bit of a break because they have been hitting you hard at every turn this episode. And you've made some really poor choices. So you do deserve a little bit of criticism, but at the end of the day, it's your life and you are allowed to mess up and make the choices or poor choices or whatever choices you choose to make at the end of the day. Unfortunately, you have 5 kids and a lot of pets, so you have to find somewhere to go since you were evicted. But, I mean, it's your life, right? So I'm glad they laid off you a little bit. But throughout the episode, there, you see everybody getting together. You know, you see Terry and Heather talking about the whole golf thing and how she was accused of calling the paparazzi on their whole Disney thing. And of course, Terry denies it and says, you know, if that guy Katie knows anybody who calls the paparazzi, I want their number because I love it. At least he admits to it, right? At least Terry will own it. And he's always said, I like being on TV. I like that stuff. And everybody agrees that they obviously probably called the paparazzi because that is the most unnatural photo I've ever seen in life, especially at an amusement park. At the end of the day, you're hot, sweaty, tired. At some point, something's dripped on you, right? Sweat, soda, juice, ice cream, whatever. You know, something has fallen on you throughout the day and you're sweaty and your hair's sticking to the side. You know, you don't look pretty walking about amusement parks and I don't know, staring at birds in the trees, whatever she was doing in that picture. It was weird. So they were talking about that. Moving on. But there was one scene that, Gina, you did not look good this episode. And you haven't looked good this season at all. And I'm not a Gina fan, but this might be your nail in the coffin for this season. This episode, it was not your finest. So Katie, who you brought in, your friend, remember that one episode when you were in the SUV going, she's my friend. It's nice to bring somebody young to the group. My friend. Well, you totally turned your back on your friend this episode. So Katie and Gina go out to lunch to talk about what happened on the golf course and how, you know, shit kind of pretty much hit the fan about bringing up this whole paparazzi thing, and Heather and her got into, a disagreement about it, right? And she was like, you know, Katie said, Gina, I was a little kind of upset that you didn't have my back. And Gina's like, well, I told you not to bring it up. And she said, I know, but it just kept coming up. And Tamra and even Emily were really egging her on about it. And she was pretty plain Jane about it. And Heather, you should know how Tamra exaggerates everything. And it was blown completely out of proportion, right? Just way, way off the rails with this one. And all she said was like, yes, my friend said yes. Yes, she did call it. That's it. You know, they confirmed it pretty much. And everybody's throwing this girl under the bus. And Gina was like, well, I'm sorry. Did you want me to defend you? Because I'm not. And if anything, I should have defended Heather because Heather's my friend. And I'm closer to Heather than I am with you. And I probably should have offended her. And I told you not to bring it up. You brought it up anyway, and you're on your own. Sorry, sink or swim is paraphrasing, essentially. And I was like, Gina, you bitch. Like, how fast are you going to turn? Gina has been such a wench this season. She's been so hateful to Jen, who's going through obviously a hard time. And yes, I can understand why you were a little agitated and pissed off with her about the whole real estate thing, but come on, really? And then you've been in a similar situation with divorce. Have an ounce of empathy and an ounce of compassion for the girl, okay? Maybe not how you handle it, but whatever. Then, not only that, and then you're going after Shannon. And now it's now poor Katie. But I seem to like Katie so far. I think she seems to be relatively level-headed. And I love how excited she got up during the dinner party when she saw Vicky walk in. She was just like, oh my God. She got a little starstruck and it was so cute. I think I probably would have done the same thing anyway, but we'll get there in a second. But I thought she looked like such an asshole, Gina, because she just was like, no, I'm not going to do that for you. And Katie's like, what? And she gets a little emotional. She's like, not only am I really shocked by that, Gina, I'm really hurt by that because I actually thought we were friends and I thought we were closer than that. And you just completely thrown me out there and leaving me to defend for myself and just leaving me out there to dry. I'm really rethinking and reconsidering every conversation we've ever had, anything we've ever done. And I'm definitely reconsidering our friendship for sure at this moment. And when she got teary-eyed and emotional, Gina's like, oh my God, you're really emotional about that. And I was like, what is wrong with you, Gina? Like, where is this emotional disconnect? Like, how are you not getting this? And I mean, you're going to defend Heather on that. Really? You are only going to defend Heather because you don't want to deal with Heather. And you know that. And she's like, Heather's now mad at both of us because she thought I was talking shit behind her back. You just look bad. And you look bad all the way around. You look bad to Heather. You look bad to your friend Katie. And you probably just lost both your friends because you're an asshole. And Emily, you were egging her on the whole way. So that scene really bothered me about Gina. And like I said, I've already been bothered with her going after Jen the whole time. So then let's get to Gina's dinner party. They're all getting ready, right? And then right before that, there's a scene with Shannon having lunch with her dad. And she's talking about the whole lawsuit that John Jansen's trying to put against her for the facelift. And her dad's like, you need to fight it. That's BS. This is a little suspicious. And it's probably going to cost you money in the long run, but you need to fight it. It's right now, it's about principle because this is some serious BS. And I think her dad gave her good advice, even with his goblet full of wine. It was just wonderful. Then you have this scene with Tamra sitting down with Alexis. And this whole relationship with Alexis and Tamra bothers me. Going back to the Jesus jugs. I mean, Alexis, when are you going to realize that this is very conditional relationship and she's eventually going to turn on you? She doesn't really like you anyway. She's just giving you a pass because you're new and you're going after Shannon and you're bringing some entertainment to this season. That's the only reason she's being nice to you. Not because she likes you. And Tamra, you look really gross this season. You really do. You know, there's a lot of predictability in what you're doing and what you're bringing. That's why you are Tamra, and that's why you've been asked back. But I got to tell you, you were dismissed earlier seasons because how harsh you were. And I'm telling you, you could be dismissed again because you just look awful. You haven't been very nice to Jen. Okay. And how you have been to Shannon is just despicable, to say nothing short. The way you went after her at this dinner party, the way you've been going after this season, talking about her drinking. Okay, so maybe she's got a drinking issue. Maybe she has an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And it sounds like maybe she does. And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just is a big partier. And maybe she's a binge drinker. When she goes out with her girls, she likes to hit it hard. We all have those friends. Sutton gets the same rap on Beverly Hills. Do not mess with my girl Sutton. I freaking love Sutton, right? So that's how I feel about that. But I just can't stand how hard Tamra's going for her about this alcoholism, and she hit a house. I'm sure this woman feels so bad. She's humiliated. She's embarrassed. She was dumped. Her world collapsed in on her. in a very instant. She's obviously, Tamra, when she was having that scene, like, she's just chaos. Everything that when, Alexis, when you describe John Jansen, or Johnny as you call him, you describe a very different being and a very different relationship. And Alexis is like, well, he doesn't drink that often when he's around me. And, and of course, every relationship's going to be different. But give it time, Alexis. And I'm sorry, Alexis, you are giving me too much extra this season. You're trying to be fun, Alexis, and quirky and way out there, and you are just extreme. And I'm really glad that people are calling you out on it. So everybody's gathering for the dinner party, right? And everybody's there. And then the last to arrive, of course, is Shannon and Vicky. And as soon as Vicky walked in, like I said, Katie's face she got starstruck, like, oh my God, the queen has just walked in. She's like, hi, I'm Katie. And of course, because Katie's friendly with Shannon, Vicky immediately, and Vicky's not usually warm and kind of accepting to new people. And this has been discussed in many seasons. She's kind of usually a little cold to the new people until they earn it, right? But she was immediately very warm to Kathy. She's like, you look very nice, friendly chats, pleasantries, all that. Cute moment. And, she says hello to everybody else. And Alexis turns over and says, Vicky, welcome to my world. And you see Vicky's turn to say, no. And then in the camera, she's like, what the bleep is wrong with this girl? What the bleep is she thinking? And I'm like, oh my God, this is why we love Vicky. And she starts talking about, then they show the clip of when Alexis first met Vicky. Vicky said that to Alexis. And it was just awesome. So they had a Vicky moment. And so immediately they sit down, the server comes over, can I get you something to drink? Right? And Vicky's like, are you going to get something? And she's like, of course you can have something. Just trying to comfort her because, the eyes are going to be on Shannon if she orders a drink because of everything going on. So, of course, Tamara's like, oh, you're going to order something? Should an alcoholic be drinking after that? And just immediately starts ripping in to poor Shannon. And Vicky sticks up for her and she's like, I just told her it's okay. She's like, you giving her permission? She's like, she doesn't need my permission, but I'm just trying to comfort her as a friend, right? And of course, when Vicky walked in, Tamara immediately was like, of course Shannon brought Vicky because she needs a friend, right? And Tamara's just going down. And Vicky was just saying, you don't need to be so harsh. She's not an alcoholic. She just can't have a couple drinks and get behind the wheel of a car. She made a mistake, Tamara. She's humiliated by her mistake. She's trying to right her wrongs. So please stop judging her. And everybody else at the table, while Tamara's just laying right into Shannon, you can see their eyes. They feel really uncomfortable. They like recoil kind of with disgust because of how hard Tamara is attacking Shannon. And then Alexis starts going in, about the $75,000 and she has the receipts and this and that. And of course, Shannon's like, I can't handle this. I'm out. And she walks out. And Vicky immediately starts in a calm kind of way saying, Alexis, why are you pulling out John Jansen's receipts? And why are you in this fight speaking for John Jansen when you were not in their relationship? And that's not kind of fair for you to come in and speak on their relationship when you had nothing to do with it. And she's like, wow. And Alexis said, well, she said stuff about my man and that's not fair. And I have a problem with it. And Alexa was just going on like, I have receipts, I've got pay stubs, I've got this, I've got that. And she did. She had screenshots of it and receipts and all that stuff. And she was passing around the table. And Shannon had walked out and Jen gets up. Thank God. Poor Jen was as quiet as could be this episode. And she just felt bad, but she was I'm sure she was thankful that the heat was taken off of her. And she actually went out to check on Shannon. And Shannon's like, I'm so upset nobody came to check out. And poor Jen's like, what about me? I'm here checking on you. And she's like, well, you know what? I understand this has got to be extremely hard. She's like, but there's a lot being said out there. And although Vicky's, sticking up for you, it might be nice if you go back in there and defend yourself, stick up for yourself, because I understand it's a lot. And Shannon's like, absolutely not. I am out. I'm done with this. So then she starts to leave. And Jen comes back to the table and Vicky's like, you know what? If she's going to go, I'm going to go. But at the end of the day, everybody, why are we doing this? We're women. We should be sticking up for each other, defending each other, not attacking each other, not being harsh. And Emily says this funny shit. She was like, how ironic that Miss Vicky, the one who loses her stuff the most, is coming out saying this should be a kumbaya moment. We need to stick with each other, defend each other as women. She was like, can anybody please roll the clips of Vicky losing her shit? And they did one after they do this full montage of Vicky losing her shit. And the family van is still the favorite one of mine always. And I love how the editors always bring that major first epic blowout back of Vicky. So she and Shannon leave. Vicky leaves with Shannon because she came with Shannon, right? And then everybody else is like, I think we should probably go too. This is a little too heavy and I'm ready to leave. But before they leave, everyone, even like Emily, Heather, everyone other than Tamara was like, I think she should, turned to Alexis and was like, you know what? You coming too hard at Shannon really makes you look like the bad person in this. And you say in one moment you are going to attack her, but then the opposite breath you said, I wish we could, I hope we can be friends, and move forward. And even though, well, maybe not friends, be friendly to one another as we're going to encounter each other in these situations in this friend group often. So maybe we can be friendly to each other, but you coming so hard for her makes you look like the villain and makes us a little standoffish for you because you're just coming back into this friend group, even though some of us from earlier on, and even those weren't great times back then. Now that you're coming in, it's not going over well and it's making us uncomfortable and we're not wanting to kind of be down with that either. So they're trying to give her a piece of advice and then everybody starts leaving like, well, this is enough for us and this is a little heavy. So I don't know. That's kind of where it leaves. Everybody's getting up and Shannon's leaving, but Tamara and Alexis look like major villains leaving that dinner. And they usually are, but Alexis, I can't believe you're doubling down with that. You look a little unstable this season. You look just angry and mean and just too much of a tryhard. You're trying too hard to get back to the next season. You're a friend of right now and you want to be a full-time. And I just don't think it's going to happen. Although we are excited to have you, you got to either tone it back, you're not going to come back. That's my opinion. So that's the wrap up on OC. I did want to say, I forgot to say at the end of New Jersey, not only was the plumber thing the funniest thing that I heard, but Dolores at the end when she's sitting at the table empty after she left and just in the midst of the food and destruction and the breakage, she reaches across the table. I don't know. I guess it's to Jen Aiden's Cosmo that was unfinished and just starts drinking it. Like, who wouldn't? That is like, why not? There's a Cosmo over there that's unfinished. I'm not going to let that go to waste. That's the right answer. So, wow, bravo. Powerful week. And a couple other little offbeat kind of things that are going on in pop culture. I don't know if you are aware, Katy Perry she has stepped down from American Idol. And the old veteran herself, the alum, Carrie Underwood, is going to be taking her spot. And it's going to be exciting. It's really good. I mean, she's so talented. She's going to be reaching a different audience. It should be interesting to see her as a judge, considering she came from the other side. I'm sure she's going to make a great judge. But fun for her to go back home. I wonder how she will be as a judge, and I guess we're all going to find out. But that's a little bit of the wrap up for now. We'll be back on Monday for a quick review, trying to catch up on Mondays and Fridays on Polywine. So please come back and join us. Thank you so much for coming back with us for part 2 today. It has been such a great time being with you. If there is anything that you would like to say, comments, anything that you would like to suggest for us to talk about, any show, documentary, movie, anything that is of interest to you, I haven't seen, heard about, or unaware of, please let me know on Instagram on Polywine Time. You can find me on YouTube and anywhere you catch your streaming services for your podcast. Thanks again and have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.